Hi, I'm Renee, the face behind Purple Adventures. So, for Seizure Smart September, I was asked to talk about the fact that I dissociate, but originally it was picked up to be absent seizures. My friend wanted me to talk about the crossover. Neurologically, there's nothing similar between the seizures and the dissociation. They wouldn't show up similar in an EEG scan, but they do present similarly in some cases, because absent seizures can present in many ways, just as dissociating can present in many ways. In my case, it was presenting as though not quite daydreaming. You knew something was wrong when you looked at me, whereas in a lot of cases with absent seizures, you won't notice that they're having a seizure because it just looks like they're off with the fairies or they're daydreaming. It doesn't look like a seizure, it doesn't look like anything's wrong. But when you looked at me, you could tell something was wrong. I think it was the way my face just went so stoic and hard and cold, emotionless. I've seen a video of me dissociating, so it was kind of weird to watch, but I now know what I look like when I dissociate in that manner. And so I think that's one thing that set off alarm bells that maybe she's having an absent seizure. Because they were very similar still, daydreaming and not. But even in absent seizures, like, they can present in the same way that my dissociation presented. Either way, there were alarm bells going off, and at that time I didn't know about FND. Therefore, the only thing we knew about, to our knowledge, was maybe this is an absent seizure. So, when I was having these episodes, you couldn't get my attention back. You could call my name, click fingers in front of my face, clap your hands, whatever you wanted to do, which would typically bring you back from daydreaming, but it wasn't bringing me back from this episode, which is what happens typically with an absent seizure where they're fully altered state of mind, because sometimes they're only partially altered. And it's what happened with this type of dissociation as well. So that's another crossover. The difference is, when I come out of a dissociation, I can still feel a bit tired, a bit out of it. Sometimes I can come back perfectly normal and perfectly as though nothing's happened. And the same thing applies to the seizures. Sometimes people come out of it and they're dazed and they're tired and they're confused. Sometimes they come out of it and it's like nothing ever happened. So again, we weren't really sure what was going on. We were thinking absent seizure. Everything we knew about absent seizure was being applied to these dissociation attacks. But we did learn that they were dissociation attacks once we found out I have FND as well as epilepsy. So the main difference, I guess, is actually inside the head, because it shows up differently on an EEG. I've dissociated while hooked up to an EEG, and I've had a seizure while hooked up to an EEG, and the neurologist monitoring it knew what the different kinds of seizures look like on EEG scan. And I'm not going to try and say the full word for EEG. I will put it down below, either in the closed captions in a bracket, or I will put it in the bio description, but I can't say the word for to save my life. I was hooked up to the EEG It was showing that I was dissociating, not that I was having a seizure. And that's the only reason we know that I was having one, not the other. But even so, the first aid still applies the same way. The thing with Seizure Smart September is we need to teach people the first aid or make them more aware, because 1 in 10 people will have a seizure in their lifetime. 1 in 20 will then go on to have epilepsy out of those 1 in 10. And then if you put that statistics into households, each household has to know, like one person from each household has to know seizure first aid in order for our world to be safe. Because what's going to happen when all these people are having seizures and nobody knows what to do? We can't just point and laugh anymore. We can't just video it and put it on YouTube or Facebook and have a laugh. We can't just kick them to the side and say they'll be right. We need help. My community needs help. When we're in these situations, we need our help given to us, and that now comes from you. So in the event of an absent seizure, we need to, one thing would be to time the seizure still. That's important for all types of seizures, is to time the seizure. So that's not necessarily the first thing that comes to mind when you're seeing a seizure, especially one that's more confronting like a tonic-clonic, as that's been dramatized in the TV shows and the media and the movies and whatnot. But that's important. Like, you do need to time it if you can, because a seizure, like how long it lasts, has a great impact on how it's treated when when the person gets to hospital, and how it impacts the brain with injury to the brain. Anything over 5 minutes is supposed to be medicated. It's supposed to be given a certain medication to stop the seizure. Diazolam, I believe it's called. I will fix that in the below as well. So, like, timing the seizure is important. Protecting from injury can look different for each kind of seizure. For some people, their absent seizure, they're just standing there. There's not much around that's going to hurt them. They're not walking into things. There's nothing coming towards them necessarily. It depends on the environment that they're in at the time. However, if they stop and have a seizure in the middle of the road, or while they're crossing a train track, or while they're in a shopping centre and somebody's coming towards them, they need to be protected from injury. If they're walking while I know I walk sometimes during my dissociative attacks, and like I said, first aid is quite the same for both. If we're walking during our attack, guide us. Make sure we're not running into things we shouldn't be running into. Some people might run into a wall. Some people might run into a fire. Some people are out the back in a winter's day, or winter's night I should say, having a fire with some friends, nice casual night, maybe there's a few drinks, and this person has an absent seizure and they're walking back out from coming inside and they start walking towards the fire. Like, that's a real threat. That is something that could happen, genuinely. So we need to look out for these people so these things don't happen. Next thing we need to do is reassure and reorientate. So the person may be a bit dazed and confused, as I mentioned before, when they come back from the seizure. So we need to stay with them. We need to be kind and gentle and caring. We need to show them some TLC and make sure that they're aware of what's happened. We need to stay with them so that they don't go off in a confused state and cause more harm to themselves. What we do not do is restrain, put anything in their mouth, which is typically more applied to ones that, like, seizures that have lost conscious, but we'll be careful here. We'll cover all costs, we'll cover all stages. So that was, do not restrain, do not place anything in the mouth, and do not give any food and drink until recovered, because we don't want them choking on it while then unable to control their body still. Now, depending on your situation when you find this person in a seizure or a dissociative state, because it's not up to you to decide whether they're dissociating or are having a seizure, so we treat them as though they're having a seizure and make sure they get the best care possible. Now, we call the ambulance in many cases, but not every case. If you do not know the person, you do not know their management plan, therefore it is safer to just call 000. If it is their first seizure, you call 000. If you do know their management plan and it is in their management plan, call 000. If the seizure has gone on for more than 5 minutes, call 000. I'm just realizing now I'm saying 000 when this video is going to be, like, for international viewing. So when I say 000, I mean your 911, your 999, whatever your emergency response call is in your country, whoever is going to get an ambulance to you. Also, call the ambulance if a second seizure occurs, one after another. If the person has been eating or drinking, so they could be choking on their food or something. If the seizure occurs in water, because that's a danger as well. Those are the main times you'll call an ambulance. Other than that, it's safe to say just wait till they regain consciousness and they're with it and not so dazed and confused, and they can make up their mind of how they need to move forward. Because sometimes they, like, the person having the seizure or the person dissociating may feel the need to go get a checkup because something doesn't feel right, and that's valid and important to listen to, and they need to go get that checkup. But sometimes they come to and they're just happy to keep going on with the day. So I hope this video was really helpful. I think I covered everything. I think I covered how we were confused about my seizure / dissociation events. I covered the first aid, which is important for Seizure Smart September and every other month, really. I think I covered everything my friend would want me to cover, the friend that suggested I do this video. I hope you found this video helpful and enjoyable, and I hope I'm not talking too fast. I have been known to do that. This is the first of many videos. I'm really excited to start my YouTube channel, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye!